Hi, I'm Sean Manaher. Welcome to the Author Hangout. The Author Hangout is brought to you by bookmarketingtools.com, where we provide you the tools, education, and community to help you market your books better. And today's guest is Carole Jelen. She is the co-author of Build Your Author Platform, and it's really good to have Carole on the line with us today. Hi, Carole.
Hi, Sean. How are you doing?
Doing really well. Thanks for being on the show. Now, we're going to get right into it really quick here. Now, with the show, everybody, you know what to do. We're tracking the comments on the hashtag The Author Hangout. We're also tracking comments on Google+, which is where the Author Hangout is playing through. And so if you're looking for a book that is going to provide you a ton of answers, you really want to stay tuned right here into what Carole's going to be sharing. A lot of what she has to say is not in a position of theory and ideas that she's guessing at. These are proven practices that she has done not only for herself, but also for her author clients. And so today we're going to be talking actually about 3 calls to action at the end of this and throughout the show. Number 1 is go to jelenpub.com. You want to take a look at her network icons, click on those, and follow her there. Also, as I mentioned, Build Your Author Platform was co-written by Carole Jelen and Michael McAllister, who really is tying things together from a literary and technology standpoint so that you as authors are able to move ahead and build your author platform. And finally, we're going to be talking about a call to action for a free seminar that Carole and her team are going to be putting together on July 15th, which can be found on buildauthorplatform.com. In getting things started, Carole, again, thank you for being on the show. Your career has actually spanned a number of different hats. You're an author, a literary agent, editor at 3 publishing houses. Now, as a result of all of that wide experience, you likely have seen a lot of changes in the industry. What are some of the biggest changes, and how do those affect authors?
Well, yes, I do have a long-range perspective. It's been a whole generation that I've been in publishing, so it's a little different than people who are coming in brand new. I also have a tech perspective, having worked in the Silicon Valley 1.0, so to speak, with the visionaries who created the technology, and I learned a lot from working with them in the early days on how best to use it. So to answer your question, the biggest thing in publishing that has happened for authors is empowerment. It's a wonderful era. It's a fantastic time because everybody can print and bind their own books and bring it to the world and sell their own books. This is a situation where a lot of people have said, well, we're going to kill the gatekeepers. Yay, no more traditional publishers. Break down the gates. Kill. But the idea is it's given rise to a kind of chaos in publishing, and that is a problem. Publishing is an apprentice industry that you learn from the inside, and it's pretty complex in how all the pieces fit together. So it's not really possible to create a book and fling it out into the world easily. It's sort of like getting the ingredients for a gourmet dinner and thinking that you can create the same meal as a fantastic chef. So what's happened is it's become harder for the quality author to rise above the noise level. This is a big problem. With 300,000 titles published every year, how is your title going to get attention is really the issue, and I think it's why your segments and what you're doing has a big audience. I've worked with a publishing model for a generation where the publishers pay the authors, pay for the price of the book. And this is the model that's going by the wayside, right? I mean, it's a beautiful model for authors. So what happens is, with so many books published, authors have to figure out a way to build a platform, to build a readership. And that's why we're here today and why we wrote the book.
Yeah, in talking about what is the big deal about author platform?
Well, if you want to sell books, you have to become known, given how busy the industry is. But also, authors love to write. I've been a specialist in for many years in creating series and multiple book contracts. So if you want to build a career, you have to build a readership that's going to be looking for what you want to write in the future as well. If you want to have a readership ready for your second, third, fourth books, if you're a writer, this is a dream come true. That's what a platform will do to you, for you.
Yeah, and if an author does want to go the route of either self-publishing or publishing, at some point they're going to be hit with this idea of an author platform, right?
That's exactly right. Whether you're published or whether you're not self-published, traditional yourself.
Yeah,
Books are books. Publishing is publishing.
Yeah, and with that, you know, from reading up on you, Carole, and what you're doing with your author clients, what inspires you as a literary agent to go deeper into building author platforms for your clients?
Well, I mean, the easy answer is higher book sales. I'm on a commission basis. I love what I do. I create publisher contracts for authors, and on a commission basis, you're in it to get as many books sold as possible, to pick the best author with the best following, and then get as many copies out there as you can. This is my profession and my career, so I like the higher sales that come from it, and that's why I delved deeper into it. I saw some books were selling better than others, and I wanted to figure out why that was, so it took a while to get this all put together in this book.
Yep, yeah, and you know, as published authors, so we're talking about self-published and published authors at the same time, because we do have both that come to the Author Hangout. Our focus is really working with both in helping authors in general to create a better platform for themselves and be able to get out there. You know, are published authors easy to convince that they actually need a platform? Or,
that's funny.
Yeah.
No, they're not easy to convince.
Yeah.
There's many kinds of resistances that I encounter, and that's why a good part of the foreword and the introduction and even into the first chapter is about overcoming resistance. One of the resistances, of course, is time. If you're a writer, you want to write, and you don't want to promote, so you don't have the time. And my answer to that is, do you brush your teeth? Everybody does, I believe. Do you go to the gym? Some people don't. Okay, that's another analogy. But whatever you do every day, and mine is a cup of coffee. I work on my platform every morning with a cup of coffee, 20 minutes, maybe it's 2 cups of coffee, but that consistent effort of that amount of time every day over time builds your platform.
I mean, that's not a lot of time in a given day. Was there a ramp up period where, you know, early on you said, well, I'm going to really dive into this, it's going to be full time, I'm going to do it, or has it always been consistent for you?
Well, I looked at my Facebook profile for the book, and it was October of 2013 that I started that page with 0 followers. I decided that it was easy for me to sign up for the big 4 social networks, and these are essentials to authors. I won't talk about them separately. I do in the book. But here it's the big 4. You get on Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and it's not that hard to sign up. You can do probably all 4 of those signing up in a morning. So for me, it has been consistent effort, mostly 20 minutes a day. Sometimes I come back in the night, another 20 minutes, half an hour. That's
fantastic. And I did notice that you're on Google Plus. You're not only just here, but you're actually on Google Plus.
That's how we found each other.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your book, I want to talk about your book as a call to action. And we had mentioned there's a lot of what we're talking about in this book, and in Recommended, you're going to learn a lot more. One of the things that I really appreciated about the book is the checklist. We at the Author Hangout really like our checklists, and in addition, what I would say, folks, is that what you're going to get is not only again the ideas, but you're going to get practical tips on what you can do at the end of each chapter, and at the very end of the book, there's a nice section where you can actually cut out the checklist, and so the 14 steps that Carole and Mike have outlined, you're going to be able to go through step 1 through 14 pretty easily. And the steps, and if you're looking for the detail on how to do things, well, you actually have it in the book, you know, Build Your Author Platform. So from a call to action standpoint, that is very impressive and very helpful for the authors, especially this audience. So thank you, Carole.
The book is an action plan, basically. This book was written for our author clients who want to really get up and running right away. And if you're starting from scratch, you can use the book. If you've already put one or two pieces in place, you can fill in with what is in the book. But it's a complete plan, actionable. That was what we were shooting for.
Awesome. Yes. And we talked a lot talked a lot with marketing experts at the Author Hangout. Each has a different perspective on promotion. So as an author platform different from is an author platform different than traditional marketing? If so, how is that?
Yeah, basically there is a fundamental difference between platform and traditional marketing. Now there's been a lot of splitting up of traditional publishing and self-publishing, and there's some gray area in it. A lot of great self-published books became traditionally published later on. We do have gray area, but fundamentally there is a difference, and the way that's easiest to explain that is push and pull, right? If I take my book and I push it at you and push it at you, buy my book, I'm going to get a high rate of click-off. I'm on every major social network, and I see a huge mistake authors are making, and that is buy my book, read my blog. And that is not creating author platform. That's the push method. The pull is to understand what your audience wants, why they would care about what you're saying, and then touch that person with something that is meaningful to them. So I click off all the buy my books, just unilaterally, and trust me, that's what most people do. The people who say, I want to share with you something about my journey in writing this book that really was a great truth that I want to share with you, I'm going to click on that person and I'm going to look at their blog because they offered me something. And that's what the difference is here. You're pulling in your readers by making it meaningful and talking from their point of view. That's a critical element to all of this. And that's why it's different.
And that personalization really, I think, speaks to the audience. So as opposed to where a lot is here, like you're saying, push it, push it, push it, it's kind of like, have I even thought about my target market? Have I even thought about what the message really needs to be? So it's not even just pulling them in, it's really thinking about the message.
Right.
Yeah. And with it,
can I add something in there?
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, with self-publishing, authors circumvent the whole process to become accepted by a traditional publisher in the first place. Every proposal that I work with for traditional, I call them professional publishers, has a description of the audience, where they go, what websites they look at, what they're reading, what the competing books are. And if you're a self-published author, I think you're really shooting yourself in the foot not to write a proposal for your own book, to go through this exercise of understanding how a publisher creates a book that is well received.
Yeah, and to be honest, folks, as what Carole said is exactly, I mean, to the T of what we're doing at the Author Hangout in trying to reach authors. We didn't do this. We didn't start the Author Hangout by guessing. We didn't start the Author Hangout by hope. And not to say that self-published authors are trying to do it that way, but there's been a lot of work that goes into what we're doing at the Author Hangout, so that we're actually on K-boards, we're on Twitter looking at the influencers, which is something that Carole talks about in her book, how you can use Twitter to reach out to influencers and gain their attention. So as an example, even in what we're doing at Book Marketing Tools, all of that is the same exact thing that you can do with your book. And I think it's really important to understand that it isn't about that guesswork. It is about being very targeted. Is that something that your book can help them with as well?
Absolutely. I do have a section in the book on how you need to think about your author, which is kind of a brand, because when I sell proposals to publishers, I talk about the author brand, and that includes an elevator pitch. And I don't like that term at all, but it really means it's condensed. I like plain English, so the book is jargon-free. We reduced it out of there just to reach out to people on the level that they, how people regularly communicate.
Yeah.
So you have to have an author brand distilled into a few lines that your audience is going to relate to and want to join in with you.
Yeah.
You should put together a proposal and think about your audience. These are really important steps, and it is covered in the beginning part of our book at the website chapter.
Okay, great. And now we're going to dive in a little bit more about Author Platform, and there are some obvious confusion and frustration even by the definition of Author Platform and how to use the technology to build that platform. What is a clear definition that we can use for Author Platform?
Right. I think that the problem is the way that we're gathering information today. And that is, a lot of people are sifting through the internet to get a little article on this and a little article on that, and they're great, but conflicting opinions, small bits and bytes. What I use as an analogy is that we're taking tiny grains of sand and trying to push them together, but they're constantly slipping through our fingers. Some information needs to be portrayed in a longer document, and that's called a book. And I think Author Platform is one of those. So that's what has created the confusion, not what an Author Platform is. That is very simple and very clear. So an Author Platform is basically a combination of using the tools in the right way to gain a readership, to notice you, to want to follow you and see more of what you're writing. It's a basic definition. You can make it more complex, but that really is what it is. You're reeling in your readers.
And I appreciate the simplicity of that, not because our audience needs simplicity, but at the end of the day, it is often the simple things that confound us. And as authors and writers of works, we can think it's more than it needs to be. And I appreciate that definition. Now, in kind of diving in a little bit more, can you explain?
So the definition
Yeah.
is an Author Platform, and I guess we'll get into the new rules after that. It's a combination of websites, the big 4 social networks, your presence as a person, as an author, live and recorded, because people need to be able to touch you and feel you and interact with you, like what we're doing today. Online author tools and locations like Amazon, which is author's great friend. There are many, many tools there that people are not using, and they really should be. Positive and public reviews by others, and a launch strategy to make a spectacle out of what you're doing to reel people in. That's what we're doing in New York. We have champagne reception, we have autographing. We are pulling people to us to spread our ideas, basically. So I don't know, do you want me to go through the 14 steps that are listed in the book, or do we have time for that? I know this is a short
Sure.
so
it's 30 seconds.
Book, I could tell you, but come to the seminar and we'll go into it deeper. It's free.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to monetize. It's just get the information out.
Yeah, I think that would be good that we talk about the webinar, the seminar that's for free, because you're going to outline those 14 steps. Feel free to share a little bit about that.
Okay. Basically, this is just a chance to get more information. Today we have a half an hour to go into, look at my table of contents, and Michael McAllister is my co-author, our table of contents, on what the 14 steps are for a complete author platform. Go to my Facebook page, Build Author Platform, facebook.com/Jelen Publishing is how it's listed. And press freebie, and you will get a quiz where you can assess your own platform. You can see where you are in terms of having yours built. The seminar is intended to follow on this conversation today, where we can only touch the surface. Mm-hmm. In the seminar, we're going to go in every one of the 14 steps of Author Platform, and then Mike McAllister is my co-teacher. He's going to show the tech insider view of how to link them all together. People are not linking. They're not getting the shareability. They're viewing this as all the pieces that they saw on the internet, and we will show you how to do that in an hour. And then after that, we will give another seminar starting to delve in deeper. But the blog posts are going into really drilling down into why you don't need 1 million Twitter followers, why 5,000 engaged is worth more than 1 million followers who don't care.
And you're already saying it, but I guess the question that comes to mind, why does an author even need an author platform then? I mean, we could have led with this, but why?
Why do you need an author platform? Well,
Yeah.
imagine an image. You're sitting there in your warehouse or your garage filled with books. You've just had they fresh from the printer and they're sitting there. So does this push method of buy my book, does that work for you? Or is there a better way? Maybe some people will work in combination with the two, but the better way is always to pull in interested readers. You're always going to find book sales from it, and it's purely business. I mean, a publisher has a P&L statement, profit loss, like any other business, and you have to earn out your P&L by selling a certain amount of copies to even justify publishing a title. Authors need to be thinking about this. It's selling books.
And that ROI for self-published authors, I guess they should be looking at what factors for that. I know that's not something that we talked about earlier, but what are some of the factors that they need to consider when they're calculating their own ROI?
Well, the bottom line is, are you in the red or the black? I like to go to simple first, not like
Sure.
lead up to it. But
Sure.
authors are being called upon to invest significantly now to create their own books.
Mm-hmm.
It was not like that in the past. A publisher, the old model, and then the model I still work with, so it's current, as a publisher pays you. So if you're doing this on your own, if you do it yourself, you have to look at how many books do you have to sell in order to make up your investment. It's not complex. That's all it is. ROI, return on investment.
Yeah. And some of those things, I guess you consider their time, which is often not a consideration, is that at the end of the day, somebody's time, so whether you're on the published side or self-published, somebody is investing their time in order to market their book. So I think that's one thing that authors may not think of. Well, I'm just marketing. Well, no, it's actually a real cost, and you have to factor that into the ROI. And even promotions for your book, if you're going to be using sites like BookBub or others like that to promote your book, cost of the publishing, which I guess these may be some things that self-published authors are not thinking of, but they should be thinking of, because it ultimately makes them determine whether or not it's been a success or not.
Well, unfortunately, it's the reason why a lot of those 300,000 books that are self-published are going to go by the wayside at some point. And authors might not try to write that second book because the first one didn't sell and they lost out on it. And that's unfortunate for people who have a great voice, an important message, to be lost like that.
Yeah. And we let me take a look here. People are curious, and we'll talk about this about new rules in digital landscape. What are the new rules, and can you share some of them with us?
Yeah, absolutely. The new rules basically are the concepts underlying the use of the tools. Use of the tools is just one half of the story. If you don't understand, really, sometimes they are deceptively simple, as you said. The concepts that underlie the use of the tools, you can really miss the boat. So one of the underlying concepts that is really important to understand is the power of groups on the internet. Crowdfunding, crowdsourcing. Look at the amazing things that are happening if each person gives a small amount of money to any given cause. Look at how political groups or faith-based groups are using the internet with their groups of people to give likes and exchanges and money and whatever. The power of groups is very significant, and authors are not seeing this. We talked about it a little earlier before the show went on, that all of these little author communities that are springing up where people are starting to get this need to be stitched together into one big group. And you can start local, you can start with genre, whatever. But the more these groups stitch together, the more authors can talk to each other, the more likes, follows, reviews, comments you get as an author. And also, authors are your first line of readers. I'm an author. I love science fiction. I love steampunk. I'm not going to tell you all the genres I love, but I am a potential buyer of your book. So don't count me out because I'm an author supporting you. This is first-line readership, too.
Yeah, and with that, we do find, because we do have a community on Google Plus for authors that they can kind of tie together and work together. And we actually started to segment out another group so that people can specifically try to target target their readers. And a lot of times what we're finding is authors are just then staying in that community. They're then, they're getting it, but now they're like, wait, I'm here, I'm supposed to go someplace else. And can you talk to us about that, how important it is to take that target audience and move that and find the platforms that they are on?
I'm not sure I understand your question, because there's
Sure.
a lot. You're saying people join the community, they stay there, they don't want to reach out. Is that the general idea? Reach out, okay? Just like we were saying, don't join one social network, join them all. Don't join one group, join them all. As many as you can stitch together, and the more people you can join with, the better off your book is going to have a chance to be found, discovered, and viewed.
Sure.
And
we do actually have a question that came up, so I'm going to pull that up here. Christy asks, in general, where is the best place to share aside from my book? Is it a blog or bits here and there, for example?
That's a good question, and I think I'm going to answer it correctly in what you're asking. If you read our book, we designed the author platform to be centered on your author website, where you should have your blog. If you have your blog where somebody else is controlling it, you've given up your control. If they change the company or decide to drop you or whatever, or your website, if it's owned by somebody else, you might lose it. So you start with the website in your blog, and that's where you're sharing. And then we really don't have time for everything, but all the spokes go back and forth from your networks, from your presences back and forth to your website and to your blog. So think of that as your center, and the rest of your work as spokes leading to it, if that makes sense. I hope it does.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're coming to close real quick, but we have a couple other questions I want to go through. What advice do you have for authors regarding building their own author platforms? I think we talked about some, but what advice do you have for that person just going on?
Closing steps. First, go take the quiz. Get the freebie on the Facebook page, the facebook.com/Jelen Publishing. Take the test, assess where you are, and then decide where it is that you need to go, what steps you need to add. And we recommend all of them to our author clients. Number 2, jumpstart your platform by joining me. I have worked hard to make 5,000 Twitter followers that are all authors. No, excuse me, 9,000. Google Plus, 5,000. Now, LinkedIn is a professional network for me with my author clients and publishers, but still, we can look at that as a viable place. But join with me. Join in with your author community, and that is the first way to jumpstart your author platform, because you have to have those likes. Join those networks, get those likes, and you're really on your way, leading back to your website and your blog.
Okay, and Carole, there's been a lot of stuff that we shared. What were specifics you'd like to share directly with readers?
Please join us at Book Expo. We will be autographing this week on Thursday. Join us in the seminar. Don't forget to join in with other people. I don't mean to be repeating it, but it's very important you get this information, learn it, and don't learn it in pieces. Learn how to connect it together rather than just picking one piece and saying, oh, that's not for me or that's not for me. That's the main thing I'd like to leave authors with.
Great. And again, folks, it's not by the book, but there is a lot of information in here that you're going to find very useful. It's valuable to what's been shared here already. There's been a lot of good dialogue about building your author platform, and I really do endorse this book in terms of the volume of information that's presented and the quality that you're going to get out of it. So, Carole, I do appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you, Sean.
I really am glad that you were able to make it, and good luck at the Book Expo as well.
Thank you.
So, audience, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. If you want to connect with us, you can take a look at bookmarketingtools.com/blog on the right-hand side. You'll find an option to sign up for a free checklist, our own checklist for marketing your book. And I really appreciate you guys being on the show today, and we'll see you soon on the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.